Actors, we've all got issues, so let's talk about them. I'm Juan Ayala, and welcome to Actors with Issues. Each week, we bring you interviews with actors from across TV, film, and Broadway, taking many deep dives into their careers and getting into the successes, the struggles, and of course, the issues that they face as actors. That's enough about us. Let's dive into the episode. Today's guest is an actor who has performed on Broadway in Phantom of the Opera, Les Miserables, and currently in Into the Woods at the St. James. Please welcome to the stage, Jason Forbach. Jason, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So before we dive in, we always start with a quick game called Getting to Know You. Just throw some rapid fire questions your way, starting with coffee or tea.
Coffee, without a doubt. 100% all day, every day. Film or television? I mean, come on, both. I will not choose between one or the other.
Drama or comedy?
Is dramedy a fair
It is.
response?
That's a fair one. I'll allow it.
Yeah, I like drama with a little bit of humor, and I like humor with a little bit of darkness in it. So yeah, both.
Hero or villain?
Oh, villains are more fun.
They are. They get the better songs, in my opinion.
Right.
Stage acting or screen acting?
Stage acting.
What actors had the biggest influence on you?
Oh my God. That is so hard. This is what happens in these rapid fires. I'm like, maybe like when I was younger, I'd say Daniel Day-Lewis.
It's a good choice.
Or, God. Yeah, I think that was the first time I watched someone and I couldn't believe that they were a completely different person in real life. That was the first time I saw like a full human transformation. I'd say him. Yeah.
What was the last show that you binge watched?
Oh my God. Well, I'm home with COVID now, so I am binge watching Industry right now. I'm like blazing through season 2. Yeah. Industry is on HBO.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. It's like this sexy British show about like finance traders.
Got it. It sounds like everything. You just described Succession and Billions as well.
Yeah, it's in the same. It's all the same. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your first non-acting job?
First non-acting job? Oh my God, I grew up in the Midwest, so like I feel like I was always mowing yards, or like my first like real job was like I was a lifeguard. I was a lifeguard every summer in high school. But oh my God, I had so many stupid jobs.
I feel like we all did.
Yeah.
If you could have lunch with any actor, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh my God. Any actor, alive or dead? James Dean.
Good choice. What movie never fails to make you laugh?
Clue.
That is my favorite comedy of all time.
Me too. Favorite movie, period.
Yeah. And what movie never fails to make you cry?
Steel Magnolias. Oh.
Good choice. And describe your most memorable audition in 3 words. And memorable can be good or bad, so it's up to you.
Oh my God. Memorable in 3 words?
Or small phrases.
I would say the one where casting literally banged their head on their table they were sitting at. How about that?
Good or bad?
Bad. Very bad. That was the beginning, the early days. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there's always one early on that we, that always just stays in our mind and haunts us. But,
oh my God. I mean,
move on. They forget about it.
Yeah. Now I can laugh at it. At the time I was traumatized.
Right. So as we know, no 2 artists' journeys are alike, especially with our show. We've been doing this for just over 2 years now. And we've had so many conversations with different actors from TV, from film, from Broadway. So what was it about acting that sort of reeled you in, making you want to pursue it as a full-time career? And when did you make that decision?
It took me a long time to be brave enough to say I wanted to do this as a career. It took me a long time. And I think all artists have lots of different interests and pursuits. And I had to try things on for size. I was interested in photography, and I'm interested in writing and music. And so I was kind of like putting all these different things on to see how they fit. And I had acted in plays and musicals in school growing up, and did a few in college. And I think it's multi-purpose, right? I think it's you as a human being trying to figure out who you are, being fascinated by being outside of yourself, finding a tribe of people, of like-minded people that feel like they don't belong. So you're all kind of finding your way together through a show. I think that's what I initially gravitated toward, even if at the time I couldn't articulate it. And I never grew up with it as a real viable career option. So, I really did try everything else before I really knew deep in my soul that I had to do this. And even then, it's been this long journey of like, is it worth the struggle? All of those questions still come up, but I think I've strayed from your original question. It was like, when did you know? I don't think there is I don't know if you know. I think you have a calling. I do believe in having a calling. And I think for the people that do this and stay in it, because it is too hard to stay for any other reason than you have a primal soul calling to do it. And that there's something in you that needs to create in whatever way, and you just aren't satisfied doing something else,
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that because we hear so often of how hard it is, how competitive it is, how sometimes discriminatory it can be, whether it's like body size or anything really. If we are able to like be convinced to not do it, then were we really all into it? That's like what something my acting coach does. Like if I can talk to a young actor for 20 minutes and convince them not to do this, then it wasn't for them. But if after that they still really want to do it, then maybe they've got something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if an older actor passing on their specific set of hardships onto a younger one in a way to deter them is the best answer there. But I feel like everyone has to come to it in their own way. And I have great admiration for all creatives, because you are the most vulnerable and the most powerful and the most influential, and you don't know it just by existing and just by persisting. And we just put ourselves out there over and over and over again just to be evaluated and critiqued. But if things go right, we transcend and we help people feel, and we help communities come together, and we help people see a problem or a society clearly or whatever. And so it's like, I don't know. I think theater people, regardless of whether they stay in the business or not, or whether they pursue other things, all creative types are the strongest type of people for that very reason. Like, we can withstand a lot of stuff.
Because of all of that rejection, we learn to sort of develop a thick skin or some toughness. But at the same time, do you feel that some actors still don't give themselves permission to be upset about losing out on a role? Or because I feel like there's a weird balance. Like, you don't want to harp on it for too long, but at the same time, you don't want to be super dismissive.
It's a funny thing, because I think the strength and the power comes from a lot of those no's, and the no's can feel personal and devastating, but they need to start triggering more self-reflection. And it's about emotional management. I think everyone should you have to feel your feelings. You have to feel down and sad when you don't get something that you desperately wanted. That's an expectation not met. And not acknowledging it is not healthy. I think you need to acknowledge it. But I think you have to remove that it is an evaluation of who you are. I think the sooner you can separate the no, meaning you're not what we're looking for right now, and hold on to that phrasing rather than you are not good enough. Right. That's the hard psychological, emotional business that we have to do. And that's where you get a good group of people, like your friends and your family and the people in your life that get it. And the more you face it with that sense of clarity, the easier it gets. And I say this as if I've mastered it. I have absolutely not mastered it. I get rejected all the time, and it hurts, and it's really devastating, and you start questioning everything about who you are. But I truly believe that the things that are meant for you are presented to you in the right time when you are ready to face them. I really, at this point, at this age, I feel like you are given opportunity when you're ready to handle it. And the things that I had missed out on, when I think back, I would not have been able to have handled that responsibility. If I had that thing I so desperately wanted, that wasn't for me then. And maybe that's faith or spirituality or whatever you want to call it. But I do kind of believe that you work hard, you keep putting in the work, you continue to evaluate yourself and what you want to say. But I think the essence of who we really are, as people, that's what people want. And so the role or the project or the art that you're making that is the exact elements of your training or your background or your experience or your identity will present itself to you, and then you will know that it's right, and then you can trust that all those other no's had nothing to do with you.
I feel like a lot of, I keep seeing young actors, a lot of actors in general. I'm almost 30. There's a lot still have to learn. I
Oh
feel
my gosh, it never ends. It never ends.
yeah, I feel like there's still, when it comes to getting those no's, we don't always, or we tend to forget why there was a no. And it's very rarely about your skill or your talent. It's, were you a good fit for the role? Did circumstances line up? Like, are there too many blondes on the TV show you auditioned for? Are you too tall compared to the co-star? Are you, so many different things beyond our control.
Yeah, more often than not, it's something profoundly arbitrary. Your height, what your nose looks like. I mean, it could be, it could be anything. Yeah. And changing those things are impossible. I mean, they're possible, but it's an impossible answer to be chasing. Your height or your nose or whatever it is about you will be exactly right for something, and it would be a shame if you futzed with it. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's a tricky balance. I was talking to a friend recently who just lost a big part on a TV show, and he was like, and he just said it so clearly. He's like, I'm taking today to be upset, and tomorrow's the next thing. And I was like, oh yeah, give yourself the day. Why not? And then know wholeheartedly that like tomorrow is a fresh day and you can be clear-headed and go about the rest of your life. I mean, I always really enjoyed how Prince's philosophy of having a project to begin and a show to kind of navigate with, or some sort of production meeting the day after another show opened. So regardless of the reviews, the critical reception, the audience response, he was already on to the next thing. And it's just about creation. I think we all are critical people because we are all trying to advance and better ourselves. But sometimes that criticism is just fear that destroys art making. And wouldn't you just want to like make more art? So it's kind of allowing yourself to keep the positive engine fueled.
And I'm curious if, looking back at all the things you've learned throughout your career, what comes to mind as something that you wish you had learned earlier on?
I wished that I had learned to be kinder to myself. And that I wish I had given myself room to fail and not feel like that is a personal failure. As I was saying about being critical, I feel like I was just so hard on myself all the time. And there's something beautiful I've only now just discovered in this capacity of doing Into the Woods, standing by for so many people and having it be such a huge job with so much required of you. And having basically no rehearsal or no time to rehearse. I mean, now we are, but in the process of previews and those opening weeks, like there was no time for standbys to be rehearsed and put into the show. And to be thrown on, it was scary as hell. It was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. And after the dust had settled and I kind of re-inhabited my body because it was just a wild experience was that I realized that I obsessively practice, I obsessively rehearse, I obsessively scrutinize. And this was the first time I did not have the time for me to be present at all. And there was no me criticizing my performance in real time or observing myself outside of my body to be like, oh, this is wrong, or that's not right, or what are people going to think about this choice or that choice. I just had no other option but to be shoved out of the airplane and hope that the parachute went off, you know, and I couldn't evaluate it. And I think I was finally able to reach a place where I was actually doing the job because I got out of my own way. And it was that drastic of a situation to get me to do that and to be real and honest, and my own self-critical nature had gotten in my way. So I feel like it's just trusting in the play of it all, and trusting in the mistakes and the messiness of it all, and how you handle those mistakes. I wish I had handled failure, whatever that means, with grace and more humor, and had been less hard on myself. That's what I wish I had told myself. It's a waste of time.
Yeah, I feel like, of course, it's like, hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah,
At
of
the
course.
time, we think like, well, I have to be tough with myself, but in reality, it's like, oh, you're a little harsh. Be
Yeah.
nicer to yourself.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to be. You can be diligent and hardworking, but you don't have to be cruel.
Right, exactly. And speaking of Into the Woods, so this is your third Broadway show, as we previously mentioned.
Mhm.
You've done Phantom, Les Mis, which only two of the most successful, popular shows in the world, and now one of Sondheim's most popular ones. So what was your audition experience like as a standby? Because I know that's a very, very different process, sort of for like a chorus call and things like that. So what was that whole process like?
You're gonna hate me when I say this. I did not audition for this. Um, I knew the City Center show had been cast, and I was aware it was happening, and they posted all the fancy names and beautiful stars that were starring in it, and I was kind of like, oh, that's cool. I can't wait to go see that. And I didn't even know they were looking for standbys, in this era of COVID. It's not typical for City Center to have coverage like that, but they were covering themselves with it being a longer run for them, and with there being so much attention on this show. And I got a call that was like, you're being considered for this. And they had seen some tapes and stuff online. And I had known the casting director from, decades and years of being in New York. And so the offer came. Like I never auditioned for it. And I had done Into the Woods briefly at Sacramento about 13, 14 years ago. So they were kind of hoping for people that had like a knowledge of the show. And I mean, I had only done one role a long time ago. It is my absolute favorite show in the world. So I did have a knowledge of it, but having a knowledge of it and truly knowing every role is quite a different thing. So it is that most annoying answer where there was no audition, but I will say it's 20 years of auditioning. It's had I not had the relationship with this agent, had I not had the relationship with that casting person, had I not booked Into the Woods prior, like all of those things funnel into getting this job in a way that prepared me that I would never have known. So I think it is, yeah, it's like there was no audition, but there were 20 years of auditioning.
And with the name of our show, we do talk about the issues, the obstacles, things like that actors have overcome in their career. So what comes to mind as something that you have dealt with or are dealing with that you're able to shed some light on for our audience of young actors and artists?
I think I think actors and young actors deal with a lot. I have dealt with a lot of issues with anxiety, depression, discovering that I have ADHD at a later age, navigating my sexuality, gender identity, all of these things that we are always navigating, and will continue to navigate because it's a journey, right? And it's not just a box you check. These are all things that I think as humans, we're trying to figure out who we are always in this world. And actors are lovely because we're trying to figure out who we are through other people, through empathy and storytelling and community. And so, we've kind of touched on a lot of these things, is that how do the roles that we are given, or the shows or the opportunities or the stories that we're allowed to tell, how do we find out more about ourselves through other people's stories? And I think that's the most beautiful thing. That's the gift that we are given by being in this, and that's the gift that we give out to the audience by sharing our talents. But it is challenging, you know. It's I've had a very I have a beautiful therapist, and have navigated times of being on medication and not, and this is psychologically, this is very hard. A lot of it is expected of us, and it is a strenuous life that takes us away from our friends and family. It's a very unconventional schedule. The pressure of crafting beautiful moments that meet everyone's expectation is an impossibility. You know, it's a crushing responsibility. We're never going to please everyone. We're never going to be everyone's cup of tea. And I think the more we are at peace with ourselves and in our own bodies, but that journey is hard to get to. The more we get to that peace, the more we can just do our work and hope that it reaches as many people as possible, and realize how positively it affects us. But it is very easy to kind of want to white knuckle a moment. Mm-hmm. And the negativity that comes out of that, or the response on social media, or the fear we have of how we look to our peers, or it's a lot of fear-based response thing. And the more you free yourself of that, the closer you are to just actually doing the work you were meant to do in the first place. But it's very, very hard. You know, it's an image-based business. There's a lot of homophobia and transphobia. There's a lot of racism. And what's beautiful about coming out of this pandemic and this reckoning that has happened is that we are all very much in conversation now. And artists need to lead the way. And every show that I've been a part of has had extensive diversity, equity, inclusion training. And the conversations that we are having, the way we engage with conversation, and we don't necessarily, I love this statement, it's not about a safe space, it's about a brave space. So where we can feel comfortable enough to actually engage in conversation and get to a higher place when there are issues that arise, or conflicts, or misunderstandings that actually squash the confusion and the fear and the disconnect. And so I'm proud of where theater is going. And I'm proud of young people in social media holding a lot of companies to account. And so, yeah, it is, I think it's a tough business when you talk about issues. It's like, it's really tough for everyone, you know, and for different reasons and ways. And people are struggling with their own demons, and they are using this as a way to kind of get through their hardships. And I think if you can get to a higher enlightened place of yourself, and a place of calm and centered peace through art, I mean, that's what it's about. That's the whole reason why we do it. Right. And I think that's beautiful.
So I don't want to keep you for too long. So before we go, we always play one final non-rapid fire round. So pressure's off. It's called Now That We Know You, since we've gotten to chat and get to know you for a bit. So fill in the blank. If I weren't working in the arts, I'd be?
Oh, in the arts at all? I think I would be an animal rights advocate.
That's the first time I've gotten that answer. I love that. Usually people are like, a chef. That's my answer. But but then I think it's a cop-out, because like culinary arts, does that count? You know, but
it's still art. Yeah, no, yeah. Right. I mean, yeah, that's tough. Does it count? I don't know. Or I don't know. Something that is just like the opposite of how frenetic and hustle and bustle this is, something that's a little bit more, even if it's just like raising animals, I feel like something that's a little bit more serene.
What role have you had the most fun playing?
Oh my God. I would say this show. I've had the most fun playing the princes. The greatest emotional, satisfying, profound life journey that I've had has been as the baker. But the princes have been the most fun. And it's been great to realize at this point in my career how to have fun on stage. You know, so much is it gets corporate very quickly. And you are trying to hold up a vision. And the beautiful thing that Lear has created with this show is a place to play and to discover and to find something real and joyful. And so there is room for play, and especially with the princes, and Gavin has been such an idol of mine for so long, and such a great, I look up to him and hold him to such high esteem, that it's fun to learn from his sense of play and discovery, and that there are no mistakes. There are just happy, brilliant accidents. And he just like, his eyes light up when things go sideways. And I love that about him. And I am learning so much by watching him.
What is the best advice you've ever gotten?
You know, I'll say this because I always give my dad grief, because when I was a very frustrated, tormented actor, and I go in there and I'm just trying to do a good job, and my dad would always be like, go in there and smile. And I'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't understand how hard this is. And I would get so frustrated, and it seemed like such simplistic, empty advice. And now I'm like, oh, he was right this whole time. You know, it was delivered in a very simple message, but it was 100% true. And that it's like, walk into the space with a brightness and a joy to be there, and you will be met by the same energy, you know. And I wish I had not fought his what I thought was just complete naivete. And he's right. It's how you handle criticism. It's how you handle negativity. It's how you handle hardship. It's like, you know, it's finding a place of joy, because that's what people innately respond to, you know?
Yeah. It's unfortunate because like we forget how excited we used to be as kids auditioning for the school play or the local musical. Used to be excited and like very happy,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
once there's money on the line, it's like, this is a job. If I don't get this, what next? You know?
Yeah.
But
Money and egos and reputation. And yeah, there's so many negative elements that seep into it really quickly. And the kind of corporate capitalist structure of a lot of these theater programs, I mean, this notion of breaking you down to build you back up again. I mean, what is that? That's not education. And it's not even elite. It's just bad behavior that we pay a lot of money for. And it's mostly fostering the damaged egos of our educators. And there's no need for it. There's no need to, you can have a critical eye and a healthy sense of self-examination without destroying the child inside of us. Like, that is possible. I hope that's where some of these good conversations go after this, because I think that's really, I'm amazed at how far I've strayed away from that person. And I feel like I'm only just now in this show discovering why I'm doing this in the first place, you know? And it's also identifying when that negative energy is coming at you. It's so interesting to see it objectively and not receive it, you know? It goes to the beginning of our conversation about being told no. And sometimes if it's cruel in the no, it's like, oh, that has nothing to do with me. You know, that has everything to do with your baggage. And I don't have to take that. I don't have to take your baggage along with me. But when you're in school and you look up to so many mentors and they fling that at you, it's hard to not take it on.
Similarly to the previous question, what's the worst advice you've ever gotten? Sure, there's a lot. I feel like we always get terrible advice.
Yeah. Worst advice. I feel like, yeah, I feel like you're given a lot of advice that's bad, and it's only informed by that person's own damaged history.
Mm.
It's not accurate. Like, that's the interesting thing, is like, there's no way of knowing. It's so up to the individual. But it's so interesting how many times I've been told not to take a job, or not to leave a job, or not to go in for something, or not to wear that, or not to sing this, or whatever. There's a lot of advice being thrown at you, and you have to parse through that. That's part of like the idea of, even when you're given a note, the note is like, okay, thank you. Yes, I got the note. I have to now parse through it to really figure out what it means, how much is actually applicable, and how do I implement it. And it's the same way with advice. It's a note, right? So I'm like, what does that actually, there's a big part of me that's like, what does that actually mean? Is that just them talking about themselves? Is that actually them giving me information that I don't quite understand and I have to figure out what they're trying to get at? And I think the worst is that, just that we're not enough, that I was not enough. I was dropped from my agents that I had for over a decade while I was in Les Mis. And I had just come off of having a principal contract there. I had just booked a principal contract at a regional gig. And I was dropped from my agency, with whom I had a great long relationship. And they were expanding at such a rate, and they were only interested in names, and I understand what they were doing. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I was very hurt, and there was no loyalty in it. I think the only true, you'll find the people that you have loyalty with, but it's like you have to be loyal to yourself first. But I was very hurt, and I was told by this agency that this industry does not view you as a principal player. Basically letting me know what my worth was, which to them was nothing. They told me that I have no place in this industry, and that there's nowhere for me to go from here. And I carried that around for a long time. And it is profoundly interesting to, almost a decade later, have gone on for Brian Darcy James opening night, and to have the response that I had received, and to be treated with the level of respect by the most esteemed people in our industry, Tony winners, Emmy winners, Grammy winners, that all look to me like I belong. And I wish it wasn't the case that I needed all these people to say like, yeah, you do belong here with us. But it took all of that time for me to think back to that original, not even bad advice, but just extreme criticism, where it's like, you'll never be more than this. And I think deep down I knew he was wrong, but the words still linger. And it still took me a long time of fighting, not only the industry, but more truly myself, to prove them, but not just to prove them wrong, but to prove myself wrong, because I believed it.
Whenever we hear, because the voices in our head say constantly like, you're not enough, you're this, you're that, and you can tell those voices to shut up. But like, when someone else who's supposed to like be there on your team and vouch for you and all of that, when they say it, I can imagine like how that felt, and it's like you said, it's like you understood, like it's a business decision, they're going a different direction, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. And I'm so happy that you've had this experience with the show, working with so many wonderful people, just sort of like instilling that and reminding you like, you are enough.
Thank you. Yeah. And at some point in life and development, it will be nice to just to know that wholly, regardless of what people say or don't say, negative or positive, and really hold that confidently with both hands and not lose it. And I hope that I'm on the journey to do that. But because it shouldn't be up to this person to say you should be in this room, and this person to be like, what are you doing in this room? I should know within myself that I belong in the room that I'm in. And I feel like every day I'm getting closer to being in that place, for sure.
And lastly, in 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
Oh my gosh. Um, Stick with it, fight hard, be true to yourself, and you're enough. Love yourself. Yeah, that's more than 10 words, I'm sure.
I was counting. He's like 12.
I'm
It's
like,
okay.
yeah. I'm not good at math.
I always make a joke. Like, I'm an actor. I only know how to count up to 8, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right.
That's it.
Don't
Well,
make me
Jason,
count.
right. Thank you so much for opening up and for being so honest and vulnerable with us on the show today. Yeah, just thank you for such a great chat.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So on social media, Instagram, where can our lovely fans find you if they want to give you a follow?
Yeah, I'm Jason Forbach at Instagram and Twitter, both.
And folks, you know the drill. You can find us on Instagram at Actors with Issues. Give me a follow at Juaniala Official, and you can find more of our show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts every Monday with bonus episodes on Thursdays. And head to the St. James to see Jason Forbach in Into the Woods. You guys have been extended again. How long is the show running for now?
Yeah, they just announced today. I mean, what was supposed to be like 2 weeks in the spring is now till January 8th, I believe. Yeah, 2023. Unreal.
Amazing. It was like 2 weeks and then 8 weeks only. And then just, it's one of those shows that I'm so happy that it's like one of those shows that you can just cycle casts in and out. Like,
yeah,
it's, I can't think of another example of that, but so many times, like when the star leaves, it's like, well, the show's done. There's no one else we can find to replace, but this is like, you can bring in so many different, like,
yeah.
beloved
And so
Broadway
many people
folks.
want to, and it's a beautiful show. And I think what kind of contributes to the ego-lessness of it is that everyone is in service of Sondheim. Like everyone is humbled by Sondheim and Lapine, and it's so much in honor of him right now. And so it's not even about the star, but how fun to see your favorite Tony winners take a stab at these iconic parts. So yeah, it's going to be this continual, thrilling, revolving door, and it's been fun to work with so many of these people and to watch them work and to learn from them. And yeah, hopefully it'll just keep continuing on. But yeah, it's the gift that keeps on giving for sure. And I hope that St. Steve up there is feeling the love as well.
As we said, go to the St. James Theater in New York City to see Into the Woods now through January 2023. I'm Juaniala. This is Actors with Issues, and we'll see you next week.